Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video on Venus direct in Pisces. If you are like me, you are excited about this transit, but regardless of how you feel about Venus, today we're going through what Venus direct can mean for all signs of the zodiac, starting with Aries and going through Pisces. I will be pulling up these little captions on the screen when we get to a sign. Um, And then that way you can see them if you are watching and if you want to know when your sign comes on. So if you're watching and I haven't done the timestamps, then you can find your sign by looking for a caption that looks like this. Okay, so that is what we're doing. Also, don't forget to get my free guide on aligning your midheaven. There's a link in the description. It's free. And then you get on my email list where you will get notified for all kinds of shit, including when I go live sometimes if I do a sale, sometimes I'm just going to tell you stories and remind you that you are right where you're supposed to be. So, get that if you want in on that. It's a great way to stay in touch with me and be the first to know if I have a new course out or anything else cool that I'm doing. Okay, so we are going to talk about Venus going direct. Venus went direct earlier today. I'm recording this on April 12th, Saturday. And Venus did go direct within the last like half hour or so, maybe. Um, so that is already happened, but I still wanted to do a video of what it means because don't you want to know? I want to know, you know what I mean? So there's that. Now, keep in mind that sometimes when a planet stations direct, it's going to give you a oomph. There's going to be a thing that happens and you'll be like, oh, this shifted, this moved forward or something. Sometimes it's not like that. And think of it as like, I think of it almost like when a car needs to turn around and first it stops and then it slowly backs up and then it turns around, right? You don't turn around quickly, right? You have to slow down to change directions. It's kind of like that energetically when planets station direct or retrograde. They're like slowing down from our perspective and changing directions, even though in reality, they're still going the same way. Kind of like when a car passes you and you feel it. And if you're just looking at the car passing you, you would think you are going backwards in relationship to it, even though you are going fast. So that's kind of how it goes, sort of. Anyway, the point is, Venus is direct, and that means that there is a shift going on with Venus stuff in terms of how we feel and what we feel is moving forward at this time. So, yay, this is exciting stuff. And Venus is in her sign of exaltation, Pisces. And my favorite part about this whole scenario is that Venus is actually about to pass Saturn. So, even though Venus is direct, she's not moving fast and she's still coming into this aspect of a conjunction with Saturn, which makes Venus stuff might feel hard for us right now. So I'm going to go through what that is for each sign of the zodiac. And let's just go. Let's see, I'm on 413 at 5:30 a.m. Let's just look at when Venus passes Saturn just to give us a little frame of reference. Shout out to everyone jumping on the live. Say hello in the comments if you're here. And let's just see this little frame of reference here of when does Venus pass Saturn on the chart visually. Okay, so they're kind of dancing together here until the 25th of April. So this means for those of you with Venus problems, and we'll get to that for each sign, some of those problems might be start to be dealt with, resolved, or, really kind of in your face up until the 24th. And then the 25th is when we might see some changes here. Now, I wish I looked this up before, but I'm just going to go. I'm going to cheat and Google it. That's not even right. Okay, I'm not going to cheat. I'm just going to look this up manually in front of you. So what I wanted to do was find out, when does Venus leave shadow. So in order to do that, what we do is we go back and see what degree the planet was when it went retrograde. And that was what, 9, 10 degrees of Aries, right? Let's make sure. I think I just saw that. Yep. So now we're going to go forward from now to, when does Venus hit 10 degrees of Aries? This is when Venus comes out of shadow. Maybe if I have time, we can do another video at this point, but this is an important, whenever we want to look at the retrograde cycle, we need to consider all the different phases. Sometimes there's something that happens on the day of the retrograde, or the day that it enters shadow, or the day that it leaves shadow, that helps us put together the whole story. So Venus leaves shadow May 15th. Okay, so we have a little bit longer before we're totally going at normal speed again, we could say. So key dates we're looking ahead at are the 25th, when Venus passes Saturn, and the 15th of May, when Venus leaves shadow. So now we're going to go on to what this event means for all of the signs of the zodiac. And so I'm going to get my chart onto Aries. So today's the 12th of April. The chart I'm starting with here is going to be the chart of, let's see, uh, the 13th at 5:45 a.m. I want Aries to be here on the rising, so I can, that's why. But the actual event, the actual retrograde, happened on the 12th. Okay. So let's get into it for all of the signs, starting with Aries. For Aries, Venus goes direct in your 12th house of isolation. So the idea of Venus in the 12th to me is, sometimes it means we are enjoying our privacy. And that can be in whatever way you enjoy your privacy, any kind of way. Pleasure. Venus rules pleasure. Now, Saturn, though, rules discipline and restricting pleasure. So it's possible some Aries out there are like doing like a no fap thing, or like being celibate for a very short amount of time. And that's what that represents. However, we want to consider, that's one thing to consider. Another thing to consider is enjoying doing Saturn in the 12th things. What is that? That is getting sober, meditating, doing things that are sobering. Okay, and enjoying them, enjoying reading about Stoic literature, enjoying reading dry ass, books about topics that are very serious. You might also be enjoying working behind the scenes, or because Saturn rules your midheaven, or sorry, Saturn is going to not rule every Aries' midheaven. Let me say that again. Saturn rules your 10th house of work, and Saturn being in the 12th represents working behind the scenes. Venus here makes it more enjoyable. So maybe you're working on something behind the scenes, either for your work or for your career or for something like that, where Venus is going to just make it more lovely. Maybe you have a nice person to work with behind the scenes. Maybe you're doing something aesthetically pleasing. Venus and Saturn together is like sculpture. It's like the structure of art. It's the rules of the composition. It's like the color rules, and the rules when it comes to like, how painters will like draw a square, and that way they can like, what's it called? I don't know the word. It's like you draw the square on the thing you're painting so that you have the perspective right, so you don't mess it up. But like the grid lines that support in it. And I think of something, I'll just do something I actually know, which is like, if I'm making a YouTube thumbnail, I will put a grid on top of it so I can see where 2/3 of the page is, So it's that kind of thing. Venus, Saturn is that kind of thing. It's structuring the beauty, structuring the relationship, signing a contract privately. Why? Because Venus rules your 7th house of other people, and Saturn rules your 10th house of work. So for some Aries, this is a very work related transit where it's about working in partnership with others, but something about that being behind the scenes. Take whatever about that resonates. For others, you might be coming into realizing some things, some serious shit about your relationship or your relationships. Even if you're not in a long-term relationship right now, it's your relationships. So with all people in general, the close ones though. So that realizing serious stuff or having serious things happen to your friends and needing to help them with it or something, you know. So overall though, let's talk about the that Venus rules your money and your relationships. So we talked about the relationships. When the seventh ruler is in the 12th, sometimes you're getting private time with your partner. But because Saturn's there, maybe you guys are working together, or maybe they're helping you work on something, or maybe you're doing chores, or maybe you are doing something behind the scenes that's a little more serious, like I said. Now, what does it do for your money? Well, I will say from personal experience, when my money planet was in the 12th house, I made bad purchasing decisions. I had a couple of really significant financial losses that were because I spent on shit I shouldn't have spent on. I trusted a situation I shouldn't have trusted. And so it doesn't mean that has to happen to you, but the potential to buy something and have it not be what you wanted or to regret a purchase is high at this time. So just be aware of that. I mean, I'm not trying to scare you or anything, but just knowing that some of you might actually make a big purchase. But I would say if this were me, I would be mindful because we've got Uranus here. Venus is going to sextile Uranus. Venus is coming into a sextile with Uranus. Uranus and Saturn are in a sextile. What does it mean? It means you could impulse buy. Why? Because it's in your second house and your money planet is saying like, "Hey, let's do something with this money." But Saturn's there being like, "Mm-mm, mm-mm, no." So this could be a thing where like you go to buy a big screen TV and they don't have any. That would be the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you go buy a new phone and then find out it was stolen and they don't give you your money back. You know what I mean? That kind of shit. So just making sure it's like good or whatever. Um, Let me think of something else here though, because Venus Uranus can be a nice, like positive like you meet a secret lover. Okay. Totally. Aries can meet a secret lover. And the thing is, Saturn's here though. So it's like, maybe you meet a secret lover who's fucking sad as hell, and you're like, that's okay. Let's deal with the grief. Or maybe you have had your own grief and you have some inspiring, exciting thing that happens that's like, ooh, I gotta go, you know, and it's just like some kind of exciting, spontaneous, spur of the moment thing, connection with another person allows for some kind of maybe distraction from your problems, but just don't get yourself into trouble, Aries. That's what I have to say here because there is the potential. If you're like you meet a partner in crime, you guys are gonna get caught. That's all I gotta say. Because Saturn in the 12th, you're gonna get caught. It doesn't mean you know you're stuck forever, but like literally prison is one of the significations of Saturn in the 12th because it's like places of isolation and punishment. Okay. So if you get all like crazy, don't go stealing shit, Aries. No, but I know most of you aren't even doing this stuff like that. But another thing to be aware of too is how does this transit feel to you, Aries? How are you feeling, especially on the 13th and 14th, as Venus comes into this sextile and really activates Saturn and Uranus? Sometimes when people have, sometimes Uranus transits make people feel excited and inspired, and you might just find something lovely that you want to spend your money on. You might find the best hypnotherapy course and you're like, yes, I have to jump into this. Now, if you have the money and stuff, I don't even care. But like with Saturn here and it being in the 12th, if it was me, I might wait a couple days just see if I still feel excited about it. But the point is, there might be some shifting here energetically related to finances. If you are a freelancer and you're waiting for some money to come through, probably, maybe you're going to see something happen around the 14th or 15th. Related to like a payment coming in, but it could be that it could go the other way where it's a unexpected bill coming in and you're like, oh shit, I didn't see that coming. You know, that could be it could be either way. Um, what else do I see that could be positive here for money? It's you guys, it's hard when Venus is in the 12th to give you a positive thing. Just be careful with your money. Get inspired about it, get excited about it, set your goals and your dreams, but make sure with Uranus involved, you want to make sure you really have the path ahead carved out before you act on those things. Because Uranus will inspire freedom, but it will not necessarily give you the resources or the stability or the structure to do something positive with that yet. Like Uranus will make you be like, I want to quit my job, but it won't give you the next job. You got to do that first. Listen to the inspiration and then be willing to have the patience to carry it out. Okay, so then around the 25th, Aries might see positive shifting related to having overcome some kind of financial mountain or relational mountain related to maybe coming into some challenges with other people that you just have to figure out how to resolve. So I'm feeling resolutions might come on the 25th, and it might just be like trudging up that mountain until then. And then again on the 15th of next month, that's where Venus is going to come out of shadow. Maybe we'll do another video by then. And it's business as usual again with our relationships for Aries and money. Okay, so we're going to go on now to our next sign, which is Taurus. Let me know, Aries, how it resonates. I always love hearing from you. And let me just check to make sure our video is good. If you are here and you are watching, can you let me know so I can see that my live is still good? I'm not seeing it on my side, but that doesn't mean it's not working. Yeah, okay, I'm going to keep going. All right, Taurus. Wait, we got to get the caption up. Tauruses. Sun, moon, and rising for Tauruses. Venus is direct in your 11th house. This is a chart of Sunday, even though Venus went direct today, Saturday. Um, Venus in the 11th going direct feels like maybe more positive experiences or enjoyment with friends, more ability to have something positive with your friends, get all dressed up and go hang out with people. Just be in a community of artists or something. Go look at paintings. Go, to a place that sells perfume or like go to somewhere and smell all the essential oils or like go to a concert. It just feels like Venus in the 11th is a really good time to enjoy your community, enjoy a sense of community, enjoy being connected to other people. So there's that. And let me see what else for you guys, because Venus coming into, let's talk about Venus ruling you and then also ruling your sixth house of your time. I think some Tauruses during this Venus retrograde may have been dealing with or reassessing how they spend their time, coming up against obstacles. If you're a Taurus and you're watching this and you're like, I don't have enough time right now, time is scarce, that's going to end. I think that might be the mountain, the metaphorical mountain. This Venus direct has you climbing, and that you may find that once it hits about the 25th of April, maybe at that point, there will be a easing up of it. It's like, okay, now you've gotten over the hump. There's still a hill to climb down, but we've made it to the ascent here of the challenge, of something that needs to be overcome. Now, for some Taurus, it could be health stuff, but it would be stuff you already know about. For some Taurus, it might be working a lot and just having a really busy schedule right now, and then having to just kind of deal with less time than normal and make it work. It doesn't feel like it's like if you have less time and just more to do in the same amount of time, that's kind of the vibe I get here. Um, but then Venus is going to, like I said, go past Saturn, and it also does rule you So you might be just facing serious things right now, Taurus. You might just be dealing with certain problems that you just need to take care of. Maybe there's something you want to do. Maybe there's a hope or a dream, Taurus, that you want to achieve, and you're feeling like you're stuck, it's not possible. You're questioning whether you can do it. For any Tauruses, I'm sorry if that's what you're going through, but it might be a moment where it's like, should I even quit this hope and dream? And for some Tauruses, it's actually like, I always wanted to be in a rock band, but I'm having a kid now, so we're just gonna, we're gonna do what we have to do. It could be that kind of a thing. But I think a lot of you, it might be more along the lines of things just getting harder. Okay, I had this dream. It was gonna cost 500. Now it's 5,000. How am I gonna do it? I was gonna be a YouTuber, my camera just broke. How am I gonna solve the problem? It might be everyday shit like this because Venus rules everyday problems for you. Um, but it also rules you. But when you come in contact with Saturn, that's gonna be everyone's gonna have their planet that rules their chart do that sometimes. It's like you hit a wall where the thing you're trying to do, you get blocked by the universe. I would say wait and see, not wait and see like stop doing something. If you're already hit a wall, then wait and see what happens on the 25th. See if some solutions don't come up because Venus is coming into contact with Saturn and also Uranus. Saturn blocks, but Uranus shakes free. So and it's almost like, okay, I almost get the feeling like Taurus is. I said this for Aries, maybe I'll say this for everyone. It's kind of like when sorry, it's kind of like when you want to quit your job, but you don't have another one lined up, but you still have this moment where you're like, okay, this moment where you're like, okay, I'm going to quit it, I'm going to do it, and then you don't have the next thing you can do. Um so that's kind of what I feel for Tauruses, where Uranus might inspire you to have some more freedom, especially come like the 14th or 15th. You might get some idea. You might just be like, that's it. I'm moving. I am gonna make the sacrifice. That could actually be what it is like you're coming into a time where you're ready to make some kind of sacrifice and give up your time maybe or spend time putting it into something where you're not going to get something back right away, but it's worth it. That could be the thing. Okay, so that could be the thing. That could be what it is for Tauruses. Just know that, this aspect I think is gonna hit this. Okay, this Venus direct is going to hit Taurus more, I think, because because Venus rules you and because it's sextiling a planet in your 11th house. Venus is with Saturn, this sextile that activates your 11th and first house. So Uranus in the first, it's just like, yeah, something's going to be happening. You might just want to change your hair. You know what I mean? And then you don't like the haircut or something. It could be something like that, where it's just day-to-day life stuff. But I will say that sometimes when Venus comes into aspect with Uranus, not everyone does this, but I definitely personally feel that it's always the time where I think I need to go do a bunch of shit and then I don't need to. It's like where I'll be like, "Oh, I need to change this. I need to change that. I need to change my hair. I need to stop doing YouTube. I need to quit. I need to, and it's like I think something is urgent. There's a sense of urgency that we don't always benefit from listening to. So if Taurus, especially, I'm thinking of you because you guys are Venus. If you feel like there's something in your life that's really urgent, you got to do something right now, I would encourage you to question that feeling and sit with it and wait a couple days until it passes. And I'm just going to go ahead here and tell you it's going to be, yeah, I would wait until like the 21st or 22nd. until that feeling passes for Taurus, to really like make major life-changing decisions. Listen to the desire, listen to what Uranus inspires you to do, even if it's at 2 in the morning, as Uranus will, and then go from there. Okay. So that's what I have for Tauruses. You guys let me know if that resonated. And we're going to go on to our next sign, which is going to be our Geminis. And I need water. How's everyone feeling? I think it's a full moon, isn't it? This one I started feeling on Friday, man. Let me see. Actually, I'm going to see. Yeah, we're at the full moon like right now. It was like an hour ago or something. So yeah, Venus going direct and a full moon all at the same time. Okay, going back to what we were doing, which was going to be Gemini. So we're looking at, as I get the chart to the right spot, we're looking at the Venus direct, how it's going to affect Gemini, sun, moon, and rising. So here we go. For Geminis, we have Venus going direct in your 10th house of career, your life direction, especially when it comes to your reputation. So Venus going direct in the 10th can be a moment where you're enjoying your career more. But because Venus is coming into contact with Saturn, it makes me wonder if Geminis have had just a challenge to overcome at work, maybe something you have to step up to, maybe a difficulty. That could be more work, that could be that there's something not getting done properly, it needs to be fixed, or a lot of pressure from management. Saturn sometimes in the 10th can be things we step up to, things we're like, okay, I have to do this. But it's usually in the 10th house, it's usually like more responsibility, and things like that. So Venus coming here may maybe the little spoonful of sugar that helps that responsibility go down. If anyone's watched Mary Poppins, but basically it's, I think that's what that's from. But it's basically just you, um, you maybe having a little more ease in your career, or maybe being able to see the path ahead that is like, I don't know, maybe some of you are enjoying a project at work right now. Maybe there is something about it that is enjoyable, even though it's hard. Maybe you are getting a chance to like be seen, or maybe you are working hard and the boss brings donuts or something, right? Venus can literally be something sweet at work. But we're going to look at what houses Venus rules to get more on this. Venus rules your 12th house of isolation and your, like psychological stuff, fears, and also, your spirit guides, things that are unseen over here. And then we have the 5th house of fun. So let's start with the fun house. Venus in the 10th is like the fun comes to work. The fun comes to work. You bring your kid to work. You get to do something creative at work. Now, some of you that might be working with the aesthetic of a thing, working with the design of a thing. Others of you, it might be just something else enjoyable at work that's like you get to put your life force energy into it, and it might feel like it's sucking the life out of you. Why? Because Saturn's there going, I'll take that, Venus. Thank you very much. So it really could be a boss demanding a lot from you and you're putting a lot into it, but it doesn't have to be a bad thing. If you're your own boss, it could be you, just really trying to put a lot of your energy into something. Now, let's talk about the 12th house too, because having the 12th house ruler in the 10th kind of means that your spiritual practice, your privacy, or your spiritual life, your even therapy, if you're someone who does it, and other things like that, when it comes to your ability to see your own patterns, your ability to see your own your own patterns, your own sorry, I lost my train of thought. just your own like psychological stuff. And then Venus is here in the 10th, making it more visible. And Saturn's here, making it more of a challenging experience or more of something that is to be stepped up to or to be overcome. So for some Geminis, you could realize you're getting too angry about something. You need to calm down or something else like that, where there's just stress and you're seeing your reaction to a stressful experience and you're noticing that you don't want to be doing that, whatever that is. Okay, so what else could be happening here? Venus comes into Uranus. So sometimes this could be, and what I mean by that is Venus will make contact with Saturn and sextile Uranus at the same time. And that might be some kind of insight. Now, sometimes those insights are really great and positive and useful. Other times they're realizing something that's not as good. So it could be a thing like the example that I think of for this is like, let's say, what am I trying to say here? I don't know, you realize that you've been really worried people were talking shit about you. You realize they weren't talking shit about you, they were talking good about you. And now you're like, "Oh man, I'm the asshole." So, fill that in the blank with whatever makes sense in your life. It's gonna be totally different for everyone. But some kind of awareness that's, like, difficult to see, but it's a sudden revelation like, "Oh my god, I did this thing," or, "Oh, I sabotaged this thing," or, "I was afraid this wouldn't work, and then this happened," or something. Okay? Positive things that can happen as this Venus direct comes into this sextile with it'll be a conjunction to Saturn and sextile Uranus, is maybe making a commitment to something that is to support your mental health or psychological well being. Maybe making a commitment to do something spiritual or creative that might be behind the scenes. Maybe getting some kind of download or getting some kind of sudden inspiration to do something that's going to take some work to put into place. That could be the positive side. The negative side of Venus coming into this aspect is when you feel like you need to act urgently, but it's not actually an emergency. So I would say around the 15th or so, watch out for that for everyone, really. And what else here? I think that's the most of what I can think of here. Some of you might be like feeling a creative block, for Geminis feeling a creative block or feeling like you're blocked when you're in your self-employment or you have some obstacle to overcome with related to self-employment. Then just the timeline here is the 25th is when you get to the top of the mountain and you still have more work to do, but it's like you're at that top and ready to start going down. And then the 15th of March is no, 15th of May, excuse me, is when Venus comes out of shadow. It's like we can really start moving forward now. We've gotten all the pieces together. We know what the problem was. And now it's like now we're working on the problem. And by mid May, we might be more solution oriented or at least feel like that chapter of that dealing with that might be ready to integrate what we learned into our lives. Okay, so that's what I have for Geminis. We're going to go on now to Cancers. Gemini, let me know if that resonated. I'm going to check on the comments. Dahlia, you're so tired. Me too. I'm like that every day though. I said out loud to my fiance, she lost her train of thought. Then you said it immediately. We're on the same level. I do that a lot, actually. I wish I had more Mercury, you guys. I really do. All right, going on to Cancers. Let me get our little caption up for Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Venus direct in the ninth house of the spiritual path, God, philosophy, publishing, the law, astrology, and things that are meaningful, um, far off countries, foreign lands, foreign languages, etc. Venus direct here. If any of those topics is like pressing in your life, like you're about to publish something, well, then that might be what this is about. But in general, I would say Venus going direct in the ninth house might have you feeling like maybe you're a little bit more clear on your spiritual path. Although with Saturn here, it might feel a little bit more on the negative side right now. You might feel like you are in the dark night of the soul. You might feel like you are in a challenging period spiritually. Now, this is kind of temporary, but and every Cancer is going to feel this differently with Saturn in the ninth. Sometimes Saturn in the ninth, you'll make a commitment to your spiritual path. This is since March of 2023. So a long time Saturn's been here saying, let's commit to our spiritual path. Let's handle problems in this area of life. So if you had problems with publishing, Saturn's here being like, let's fix these problems. Let's resolve it. Now, if you didn't have problems there, well, then Saturn won't hit that as hard, if that makes sense. So when Saturn goes through a sign, whatever problems already exist in that area of life, you can no longer ignore. So this is one of the reasons Saturn hits people differently, is because some of you have more ninth house problems. And sometimes I have more problems, you know what I mean? So the more God problems, spiritual path problems, publishing or legal problems you have, the more Saturn's going to affect you. If you're studying, higher education goes here too. If you're in college right now, you're probably really cramming for exams or something and stressing about it. But basically, Venus here what Venus can do in the ninth is bring the love of knowledge. And it's like, it's a beautiful thing, Venus in the ninth, because you can learn something and then you learn the next thing and it kind of expands on itself. And it's like you enjoy it more. Every layer of meaning you learn, or spiritual truth you learn, or deep technical information, high level information on a topic is like more enjoyable. So that's what Venus in the ninth is good for. Venus Saturn in the ninth could make that same process that normally is enjoyable feel like it isn't enjoyable. It could make it feel like you are climbing a mountain when it comes to like trying to learn, or maybe even feeling a little bit like blocked intuitively, like yeah, just like feeling a bit like, yeah, if you're normally intuitive blocked, feeling like your prayers aren't being answered, that's like probably the worst case scenario with this connection here for Cancers. Now, let's talk about Venus ruling the fourth house and the 11th house. The fourth house is your emotional well being. Your emotional well being might be coming up against some obstacles. You might just have more stress right now to deal with. There might be a thing that especially related to a mentor or teacher, someone you rely on to teach you stuff. Maybe they're not there and you have to do it all yourself now. Maybe there's something going on like this where there's an absence of someone who used to be an authority in your life or someone you could depend on, and you can't depend on them anymore. It could be that. But the emotional well-being part, well, we're going to see a shift here around the 25th. So Cancers might just be exploring solutions to challenges related to how you feel. Like you might be learning about stabilizing your nervous system, or you might be learning some hypnotherapy techniques, or you might be learning some other thing that would help you to solve the problems related to your emotional well-being. If you're depressed, if you are, I'm not diagnosing that, if you are just not feeling great about things. If you are more stressed, then Venus coming into that aspect with Saturn might be you seeing how much the stress is affecting you and just getting a real good look at the consequences, because that's what Saturn will do. For others of you, maybe you're committing to a course that is like you're going to love. You just are going to love the information and it's going to make you feel good to know it. That could be because it's about fourth house topics like home, family, ancestry, land, but it could also be about real estate, but it could also be about a fourth house emotional foundational topic like psychological development, like trauma, like things like that. Okay, so either way, and then like how to heal the trauma, or how to resolve destabilized nervous systems or things like that. Okay, so then Venus also rules your 11th house of friends. So then Tauruses may have, Cancers may have some kind of challenge when it comes to their social circle that's having to be dealt with. Sometimes this can be like, I need to cut these friends out of my life, or maybe you have some people around you who are trying to get you to drink and you don't want to drink, or other challenges where it's like dynamics among people are making you feel limited or stressing you out or stopping you from being able to do something you normally would want to be doing, making it harder to learn for some reason. Or maybe just some people in your social circle are dealing with some shit and they're downers right now. And you're like, damn, you guys got to deal with all that. But it does feel like, I don't know why I said it like that, but Venus coming into this aspect around the 15th or so might be something where you're breaking free of a restriction that came from someone in a community setting. Maybe you are going to break free of some kind of emotional thing that you're dealing with and you learn the technique to not feel a certain way. That could be a thing too. Now, Venus coming into a sextile with Uranus in the 11th is actually kind of a nice aspect because this is a friend making aspect. But with Saturn here, there still is an element of seriousness to it. So maybe you make a really academic friend or a serious friend or a friend who's like, um, yeah, a friend who's like Saturnian, so like super responsible or something, or they're like meditating every single day and they're really just like solid. So best case scenario, make friends. Worst case scenario, we're dealing with solving problems related to friends and with our emotional well-being. And again, remember the solutions are going to be more, you might be feeling like you've climbed the mountain and you're coming back down around the 25th of April. And then, where things are back online again around the 15th. So of March, or sorry, May. I keep saying March. Okay, that is what I have for Cancers. We're going to go on now to our Leos. Okay, Leos. Okay, for Leos, Venus goes direct. Venus is now direct in your 8th house of sex, death, and other people's money. Now, Venus going direct in the 8th is like a reminder that you can let other people in, that connection with other people can bring ease to your life, especially intimacy, and that can be good friends, that can be lovers, it can be either way, but like people you can trust. Venus in the 8th kind of signifies other people bring you love, other people bring you compliments. Other people are providing something to be enjoyed. Maybe someone's singing you a song or something. Maybe someone wrote a song about you or something. But it's like that because Venus in Pisces is very creative. She's her most creative here. And Saturn makes it more of a stabilized, structured thing. So it's like a song that got written that has structure to it, etc. And um let me think what else here for Venus in the 8th. I feel like there's something I'm missing on this one. Venus in the 8th, Venus in the 8th is I know it. I know it. It's like, it can be a gift of money, but that there are strings attached. It can be a grant or a loan, but there's stipulations to it, like a loan you have to sign up for, or a tax rebate, but it's not as much as you thought it was going to be, or something like that. Because the 8th house is a money house, but it's also kind of transformation. So that usually can be like a change. It doesn't feel like that's what it is, though. It feels more like we're enjoying getting close to people, even though There might be a challenge related to that. It's like enjoying getting close to somebody, maybe while they're grieving or while you're grieving. Saturn in the 8th can be grief. It doesn't mean don't be scared of that, but usually it's like sometimes the 8th house is like negative planets in the 8th house is somebody else in your life is dealing with something. If you're in a relationship, they are having some kind of loss they're dealing with, and you're with them along for the ride. Saturn in the 8th can also be a time where you're not getting laid. You're not having as much time for intimacy for some reason. But Venus there can actually be there's a good reason. Like there's something else you're enjoying that's wonderful. And Venus rules siblings. So this is almost like for some Leos, maybe your sibling is visiting, right? And so that would be why there's not as much time for intimacy, but there's something good about it. Right. So things like this can be happening. Now, let's consider that again, Venus rules your third house and your 10th house of career. So, career might be causing more connection with other people. If you work with clients and you're a Leo, you might find that you're going like on a deeper level with them at this point. Venus going direct may help solve problems related to work, but it might put you really in touch with this mountain, like this problem, like you're climbing this mountain, you're still climbing. Venus is direct now, though, so you can actually take steps up the mountain that you're trying to climb, whatever that is, and watch out for good ideas on the 15th related to solutions for places where you felt stuck on the next step of your career, because the rattling open the cage of Saturn is kind of what I think of when I think of Uranus Saturn, is like stimulating an idea, and maybe that idea is not ready to have the structure put in yet because Saturn's like, no, we can't do this right now. Like the building has to have a foundation before you can put the windows in. And Uranus is like, but I found the idea for the coolest windows. And Saturn's like, but you can't, Uranus, dude, you chill, you can't put the windows in yet. So think about how that metaphor applies to your work life, especially, or the public image that you have that you're trying to do, the things you're trying to accomplish, your goals, your professional goals. Okay. And then think about what mountain has it felt like you're coming up against, or what wall are you coming up against? You might still be coming up against this wall, but with Venus direct, it's like you can really see what the wall is now. We can again take steps toward coming up against the wall, and at least even banging your head on the wall is better than just sitting there going, there might be a wall. So it's like we begin to have this movement here, and we might be moving closer into an obstacle, but that we're going to pass. We're going to get through it. So the 25th of April is when we might feel like we have figured it out, climbed the mountain, accomplished the goal, solved the problem, or at least are on the other side of it. And then May into May 15th, that's where we're really going to be like, okay, things are online once again. Also, Venus ruling that third house. How this can relate is the third house is communication. The eighth house is deep communication. This might be a nice positive transit for some Leos, especially if you are into psychic work and the paranormal or the other side. Leos might be really feeling the ghostly, the ghostly energies, or Saturn does rule death. I don't think that Leos are dying or anything, but the passed on loved ones, connecting to them, conversating with the other side, having conversations about it, reading books about what happens when you die, or, getting really deep into that stuff. If you're into it, if you're not, just ignore that. Also, you might be communicating, right? Because the third house is communication. The eighth house is intimacy, deep communication about serious things. You might be talking to your parents about what they're going to do in their will. You might be talking to your friends about, their person who they lost and they're sad about. And you're just talking to them and you're listening to them and you're helping them, probably helping them. It can be something like that. Saturn in the eighth is sometimes, especially eighth house planets are describing the other people in your life, not you. Okay, so then sibling. Some of you might have a sibling who is coming into a challenge and they're just kind of hurting right now, and you are there witnessing that. And if that's the case, again, the 25th might be a day where it's like they're finally kind of, maybe not all better, but better enough that it's not the most important topic going on. Now that's not going to be everyone. Some of you, it'll be your car. You need to get it fixed or something and you're putting it on credit. Some of you, it'll be something like that. But either way, watch for good ideas and inspiration on the 15th, even if you don't have the structure in place yet to carry them out. Okay. That's what I have for you, Leos. Let me know if it resonates. I always love hearing from you. And we're going to go on to our next sign, which is our Virgos. All right, Virgos. We have Venus going direct in the 7th house of relationships. And, Venus, first of all, what does Saturn do here? Saturn in the 7th has made relationships more serious since March of 2023. Some of you may have been more isolated. Some of you have ended friendships, especially because Neptune went through here too, and Neptune dissolves. So Neptune's been dissolving things with friendships, while Saturn's been showing you what's wrong with your friends, basically. Now, that's only again, Saturn can only bring up the problems in a house that have already been there and have not been addressed. They can no longer be ignored. So by now, Virgo, you've probably ended some friendships in the last couple of years, or had them end, had them just disappear, or, like vanish when you had problems or something like that. Now, Saturn in the 7th can also just be a time in general where you are taking on more responsibility. That can be for other people or not. You might meet more Saturnian people during this time. That's people who are like, conservatives who are like, you gotta pick yourself up by your bootstraps. But with Saturn in Pisces, sometimes the authorities you meet during this time, or the people in your life who you should be able to rely on for whatever reason, you can't rely on them because they're not there or they're too drunk to do their job, kind of a thing. So that can be a thing that's happening in the lives of Virgos just in general. Now, Venus is here. Venus in the 7th usually is going to be a time where there's more potential for positive connection. That could be good friends. This could be nice conversations. This could be, supportive people at work. This could be you just flirt a little bit and meet some people. Although, flirting is a 5th house thing, but Saturn does rule your 5th house. So it's like Venus might be sweetening up your flirtation, whether you're single or not, single or in a relationship, just sweetening up the romance department. And that's not bad. And Venus can also be sweetening up your time a little bit. So that can be like making the things you do with your time more enjoyable, being more leisurely, being more like, I'm going to stay an extra 10 minutes and just watch this sunset, or whatever it is you do, Virgo, that's like to enjoy your time. So that might be a thing. That might be a really positive thing with Venus going direct, is that she's kind of giving her energy to Saturn. So your creativity and your time are going to benefit. If you want to improve problems related to time, now would be a good time for that. It really would, because Venus is already there kind of doing that. Now let's though talk about what Venus rules and how it's affecting that, how Venus direct affects that, because Venus rules your money and your 9th house of God. So Venus coming into this point with Saturn can make Virgos be feeling a little serious about their path, and be considering quitting something, be considering releasing or ending, because Saturn sometimes finalizes a thing related to your spiritual path. Like, I've been reading this book and I realize it's not good for me, or I'm in this spiritual course and it's the wrong course. It's not right for me. Or just realizing like, okay, this thing I learned that I thought was going to get me to this place spiritually, it didn't. And it's okay to let it go now. Sometimes you might be getting some kind of clarity around something that was a spirit, like you were spiritually pursuing, that now you're like, no, that's not right. That church is wrong, or like that spiritual book is not helping me. It's making me too down. It's not the right tool for me right now. Okay, so that could be a thing that's happening, especially around the 15th for Virgos. I also think money, money might be tight right now. Money might be something you're feeling a little worried about right now, because Venus coming into Saturn is like, our money can literally slow down. The topic can feel heavier. And it does look like because Venus will pass Saturn on the 25th. So for Virgos who are feeling the heaviness financially, um, Venus passing Saturn might be a metaphorical shift in the energy of the finances where it's like, okay, we've handled this problem, we've stepped up to this responsibility, and now we can relax. Now that could be something like Virgos get a second job or something. Why? Because Jupiter's still in that 10th house, giving you kind of more work, more roles to do. And it could be in your same job where you have a new set of responsibilities. But either way, it does feel like something can shift financially where it's like if there was something that you were worried about, maybe now you have the plan in place to handle it. So, sorry, what I think of for this is like, let's say you have to do some work on your car and you don't know where the money's going to come from, Virgo. It's like maybe right now, around the 12th and 13th, we're not in solution energy. We're in awareness of the problem energy. We're in like, oh shit, we got to deal with this kind of energy. And then it might not be your car, though. It might be something else. But then it's like, okay, let's look at the situation financially and face it and deal with it and see it for what it is. And then once we do all this paperwork or once we really write it down in black and white, look at our budget and what's coming in, do the responsible thing, take the action, then it does feel like maybe in the next couple days when Venus sextiles Uranus, we get some inspiration. Now, that could be, excuse me, that could be a positive thing where it's like, "Ooh, I have this idea for how to solve this problem," and it might be financial, but it might be like, maybe you sell some of your stuff or get rid of some of your stuff. But then it's like, okay, we have a solution, but now we have to deal with it's almost okay, the metaphor here I get, and just fill this in with what makes sense for you, because you might be at a job, you might have a couple jobs, you might be freelancing, you might be doing things on the side of what you already do. And then it feels like coming into a realization that like, okay, I have this problem. I don't have enough money. And then the realization is I have to work. I have to work more. The realization is it's not this Uranus moment here on around the 15th is not a moment of like, yay, I won the lottery. Now I can pay off everything. No, it's a moment of, oh shit. I have this acute need to solve a problem, a financial problem, and it can't be delayed. It has to be dealt with. It's like maybe there is some kind of financial urgency around the 15th that we're hustling. I know a lot of people do their taxes at the last minute, but either way, it may not be that. It might be something else. And then we realize like we have a problem, we have to deal with this. But then the real solution moment or feeling like, okay, now we've dealt with this and solved it and got into the thing we needed to do and now we're doing the thing may not really be fully in effect or even starting until the 25th. So it's almost like I'll give an example, just fill it in with what makes sense for you. The Virgo rising realize is okay, we're under budget, we don't have enough income. They go get a temp job. They go start applying or whatever. Maybe on the 15th, they get the call that says there is a job, da, 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 da. And then by the 25th, you're either working or you're like getting your first paycheck, that kind of a thing, where we have this problem we're looking at. Okay, so I want to talk about what it could be besides money because I really uh, went off on that for a bit. This might actually not be financial, right? Because Venus also rules your ninth house of travel, of meaningful things. The ninth house is really about learning. So maybe some Virgos out there are trying to take a course and it's getting to the hard part of the course of something they're learning. And it's like all they see is how they're not learning it and they're not figuring it out. And maybe around the 15th, you get an idea or someone helps you or you get guidance or something. And then, by the 25th, that thing you're learning, you're starting to get it now. And then there's also the potential that this really could be more about relationships and connecting with people. But with Venus, Saturn, sometimes we're looking at contracts. With Venus, Saturn, sometimes we're looking at endings to things, right? So it's possible some Virgos out there might have an ending to a stream of income happen at this time, but I wouldn't predict that for everyone. But if you're like, oh, I think this is going to end, well, maybe that would be the time. So just see what happens. See what happens around the 15th. See what comes up for you. Be ready to make some financial or spiritual changes because there might just be some really deep insights. I think that would be the best way to describe this. It might be insights about problems, but still, you're going to get the insight. And once you have the insight, you can do something about it. And then the energy starts to move, especially if things have been stuck and stagnant in relationships for Virgo or in money for Virgo, or even in your spiritual path, because Uranus is there still shaking it up. Okay. So we have potential for change here going on. Okay. So that's what I have for Virgos. We're going to go on now to our next one, which is our Libras. Now, this one is a big one for Libra because you are Venus. Okay. So you're going direct here and you're direct in the sixth house of work coming into Saturn. Almost all Libras right now are going to be working hard, working more, or doing chores or like working out after work or just doing things with your time that are more responsibility oriented and have a feeling of sacrifice. Now, all sacrifices are not bad, but it might be like, okay, I have to do this right now because I have a goal. That could be like taking a course after work, or maybe doing more dishes because you have family over, or something else like that, where the sixth house really is shit we have to do. The sixth house is shit we have to do. Okay. It is not usually shit we want to do unless you love working and you're like, yes, I'm obsessed with my craft. I just want to get better. Um, yeah, that is how I feel about that. But, Venus coming into Saturn is just a time where you're more aware. You can be a little more hard on yourself right now. So Libras, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling really aware of ways you have not felt like you measured up in life, just let this transit pass. It's okay. It's okay when your planet that rules you comes into contact with Saturn it's okay to look squarely at the problem and be like, damn, man, I suck. I sucked at this. I thought I was going to achieve this. I'm still at the bottom. Or to look at what you're doing wrong. Like, let's say you're a painter, you want to have someone assess, I don't know, maybe your teacher go over your painting and see how what you're messing up, and they give you a list. Like, you got to get your colors better here and your lighting better over here, whatever. I don't know what painters do, but the point is, it might be a time where your skills are getting assessed or judged, and there's some criticism around them. That might be from you or from outside sources, but Saturn's with the North Node, so the desire to achieve is still strong. And it might be you just being like, I got to get better at this thing, and I want to get better at it. It could be anything because Venus is you, and it might be your body too, right? Because the first house is your body. So some some Libras out there might just be like, I want to look hot. I'm going to go work out, or I want to feel better and be healthy. I'm going to lift weights now, or something else like that, where it really is working out, and Saturn kind of ruling the endurance and the hardness of that activity, even though it's a positive thing. Okay. Let's see what else here. So, what else is Venus ruling for Libra? Well, it's going to rule your eighth house of sex, death, and other people's money. Now, it's in the sixth house, going to come into a sextile with a um nice old Uranus in the eighth here. What does that mean? Well, best case scenario for Libra is coming into around the 15th or so. Maybe we have a positive experience related to intimacy, but it could go the other way too, where it's a unexpected information about a person that is maybe not positive. But it could also be like an unexpected expense you have to pay. Maybe some Libras are like, oh, I owe all my taxes instead of getting it back. Stuff like that, where there's like a fee. Maybe you get your tax back and you get a fee and it's garnished or something. That could be a thing here. But because Venus rules the 8th house, now some of it could be just like losing money in the stock market or something, or like something like that. It's very hard to talk about the 6th house without having 6th and 12th house, guys. Those are challenging times, okay? They just are. You have had Saturn in your 6th house for like 2 freaking years saying, "Work harder, do more. Do more and achieve less." Saturn, that's what Saturn does in your 6th. It makes you work harder. It makes you do more to accomplish the same thing. It makes your commute longer. It makes your something about your life, you have to put more in to get the same amount out. That's what Saturn does here. Venus coming into contact with this is like you putting more in, not getting more out right now. Maybe because you're training, maybe because it's just a bill you have to pay. Like you just got an extra fee. You know what I mean? You don't get anything back for it. You just have to pay it. It can be something like that, but either way, whatever Libras are going through right now, especially related to having to overcome an obstacle when it comes to someone you're really close to, I think you're going to get ideas for solutions around the 15th, and I think you might feel like you've like got to the top of this mountain around the 25th, and then again we might see more positive stuff in general for Libras around the 15th of May. So, good times are coming. This doesn't have to be the end of the world. Sometimes you're just taking on more responsibility and it's fine. Maybe like you're driving your kid to soccer practice and it's like, this is great. I would not do anything else right now. So just because it's Saturn doesn't mean it's bad. It's just kind of the realities of life we have to do. Okay, okay. Going on to our next sign, which is going to be Scorpios. For Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Rising, we have Venus direct in the 5th house of fun, creativity, pleasure, enjoyment, self expression, self employment, and children. So, this might show up as Scorpio's enjoying yourself more, but it's Saturn's involved. So, it's like you're enjoying yourself, but there's a sacrifice involved. You're enjoying yourself, but maybe you're with the most beautiful person, but you're just doing shit you'd rather not do. Or maybe you're doing the coolest thing ever and you're with someone you'd rather not be with. So it's like there's fun, but there's a drag at the same time. What else could be happening here is enjoying working hard on something, enjoying working hard, expressing yourself, like enjoying writing or painting or doing some other creative activity, but you're doing it in a way that it's like treating it as you're stepping up to this responsibility that's been here for the last 2 years with Saturn in the 5th. And then maybe there's some kind of good idea or solution or idea to break free of writer's block or a place where you felt stuck in your creativity or even your dating life, possibly for some Scorpios. And then Uranus comes and kind of rattles Saturn free a little bit, but then there's still some work to be done. That could be a thing. If that's the case, then the 25th is when I think you're going to feel like you've overcome or figured out the solution to whatever challenge this might be. The good side of Venus Saturn in the 5th is like it can stabilize your creativity and then make you want to do it more, make you enjoy the process more, or have you like loving writing songs, or just loving whatever you're like creatively producing. That's something that could just be a positive. Saturn in the 5th doesn't have to be a negative, but I do think Saturn and Uranus being sextile while Venus is coming into that aspect really does feel like you might feel stuck creatively, but you could move forward with commitments in relationships. Or maybe it's like in relationship for Scorpios right now, maybe the commitment side is going well, but the romance side is a little more frozen or just like not where it needs to be. It can be something like that going on here, but Venus rules that 7th house, which could be some of you Scorpios who are in relationship could just find that like it's almost like maybe your partner is having some hardship they're dealing with and you're there witnessing that and witnessing them just dealing with something and you're just there it's just like something going on with them And, you're just there dealing with that. Also, we need to think about Venus ruling your 12th house of isolation, of, what else could this be though? 12th house is like, psychological awareness, psychological insight, realizing how you self-sabotage your own creativity, seeing how you're stopping yourself from doing what you really, really want to be doing. And then Uranus, maybe the 15th of April, maybe you have a big insight on that. And you're like, "Holy shit, this isn't going forward because I'm doing this over here." And you just get that insight. I would say be ready for those insights. Be ready for changes in relationship. Be ready to just allow the people around you to go through whatever kind of little sufferings they're going through and just walk through that with them. That's what I would say for Scorpios. Let me know if it lands, if it resonates. I always love hearing from you. And we're going to go on to Sagittarius now. All right. Sagittarius. Okay, Venus is direct in the fourth house. I love Venus in the fourth because you can get some deep spiritual insights about yourself, emotional insights. When you realize things about yourself, your psychology, when you realize how you work, when you do the astrology and the human design and the personality test, it's just so enjoyable to you. It's so like you just love it. You just enjoy it. You just love it. Okay. So then let me think. Sorry, I got distracted. So Venus in the fourth can be that. It can be you learning more deeply about yourself. And Saturn can either make it things that are just kind of problems, like you're learning about your own fears, the things that make you worry, the things that keep you up at night, the things that are like the emotional stuff that is like, we need to deal with this so we can be healthier and happier. The emotional problems that are like in the way. And Saturn's been showing you those for like a couple years now, Sag. So it's not like this is a new thing. But with Venus here, it's almost like you could be enjoying the process of figuring yourself out, enjoying the process of meditating, enjoying the process of kind of seeing what you're doing wrong on an emotional level, but maybe not quite yet seeing the solutions. It does feel like this will be a time for Sages to find solutions to their bad feelings. You know what I mean? Like maybe some Sagittariuses are like, and it doesn't mean your feelings are so bad. What it is that when Saturn goes through a house, it's been in your fourth house for like 2 years. Whatever emotional problems you have, Saturn will not let you avoid them anymore. So how bad this transit is related to that is going to depend on how many emotional problems you had going into it. Okay, so and with the North Node Saturn, it's like we really want to deal with and resolve emotional things. Okay, so that could be early childhood things, but it could also be like, I notice that I feel this way and I don't want to. I don't want to feel this negative feeling every time I do X, Y, or Z. I don't want to da 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 da. You might be becoming aware of these things. And then maybe there's some insight by the 15th of real life solutions to problems related to our time or even related to our home. Some Sagittariuses may be more aware of things you don't like in your home environment, whether it be the actual house itself or the people in it. Venus rules the 11th house. So this is a community, right? Community in the home. So it's like, if you live with people, you might have problems with some people at your house until the 25th. There might be a challenge at your house that you're really aware of, that you're like, I want to resolve this, but maybe you're not sure what yet to do until the 25th. Other ways that 11th ruler and the 4th could play out is like maybe you have a hope and dream that you're not sure if it's going to work out. Like you're not sure if you have the emotional capacity to handle. Or maybe you have a hope and dream that is not going how you want it to go and it's on your mind. If that's true, see what comes up for you around the 15th as far as solutions. It won't be the day probably you can do the solution, but it might be a day you can see the path ahead or what would need to change. And then see how you feel around the 25th related to that topic. Now, let's consider also Venus ruling the sixth house of time. Some of you Sagittariuses might be, I was just thinking about this today, and I'm a Sagittarius, might be wanting to do one of those things where, have you ever heard of people how they audit their time and they'll write down what they do all day and just like do almost like an inventory, a personal inventory of your time, and writing down what you do every 10 minutes all day long for like a week. The whole idea is to see how you're spending it, especially for people who either like maybe they have an addiction and they waste time or something, or people who are like trying to be the most effective at their job, or they have a business and they're trying to see how um like make decisions, right? Like if I spend this many hours doing this and I make this much money, I'm actually making this much. Or maybe even some Sagittariuses at your work, they make you track your time, right? So, like sometimes attorneys will have this where you have to write down how many minutes you spent, even if you're like the paralegal. And then other companies as well will do this, where it's how many minutes you spend on the client because they can bill the client for that. It's like billable. There's billable things and there's non-billable things. So maybe some Sages out there are coming into an experience where they're getting serious about how they spend their time, especially time at home if you're working from home or something like that. But just getting serious, auditing, really taking a solid, sober look at how you spend your time, and maybe something coming up around the 15th or so will spark off an idea, or bring some awareness. And the awareness might be this is a problem, but still that awareness of what the problem is can help. Now, Venus coming into aspect with Saturn can also be Sagittarius's having problems at work, because um Venus rules the sixth house of like your coworkers, and Venus is direct, but she's really been like on top of Saturn and back and forth a bit. So it's like for Sagittarius who feel like there's something at work that's heavy and difficult, there might be a change to that around the 15th, but it might actually take a little bit longer to find the actual solution. And I don't know whether for some Sagittarius, whether it's like, okay, leaving the job is going to be the solution, or there's something else going on. But it does feel like personal dynamics with coworkers, or just having a lot of stress coming from what you're doing at your job or for your work could be happening. Now, for self-employed Sages, it might be more like the obstacle of how am I making money with my time kind of a thing. Like the obstacles that are like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get more clients or something, or make more money. But or like even like the obstacle of hiring people and firing people. But for those who are working in jobs and things like that, this is probably more like maybe the work you have to do is really hard and that there's a heavier workload and it's causing more stress. Maybe there's a problem, like you can't log into the system at work and like it's just harder. There's like problems you have to overcome. Maybe there's a commitment you're making at work. Maybe you are going to be working more hours and it's like, okay, we're going to Venus Saturn is like a contract. Okay. So some Sages might be signing contracts around the 15th or so. Things might be picking up related to work related things. And it might not be changing your income. It might be just changing what you're doing at your work, or dealing with solving the problems of what you actually do at your work day to day. Yeah, so I think for Sages, it's like getting serious about time or what you're doing at work is probably the most likely. It could also be just, for Sagittarius, Venus rules your problems. Okay. The sixth house is your problems, your bills, your freaking broken windows, whatever. It's coming into aspect to Saturn. So it's like your problems are getting real. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I want it to be all beautiful. The most positive way this can express is Venus coming in aspect with Saturn can be like you're making a commitment or willing to make a sacrifice to get good at a skill. And maybe because you realize you want to get better at a thing or something else like that. But like giving something up now, sacrificing something now to work harder or to do more work or to get skilled. And you may do it knowing full well that you're not going to get the benefit right now. It's going to be a little bit of a time between the skill development and the actual outcome. Okay, so that could be one positive thing for Sagittarius. Going on now to Capricorns. All right, Capricorns, we have this is going to be Venus going direct in your fourth. Nope, let me fix it. In your third house. There we go. So Venus direct in the third is like enjoying lovely conversations, listening to something nice, spending your time eating sugar or like looking at art or going to an art gallery in your community or something. But Venus is coming into a conjunction with Saturn, and Saturn is Saturn in the third can be being really disciplined with your schedule. Saturn in the third can be not driving as much or having complications with your transportation. Saturn in the third can also be conflicts with other people, people that you just see all the time, especially Venus, Saturn can be conflicts. But it's like with Venus, Saturn in general, we're seeing a sacrifice of enjoyment. We want to enjoy a thing, but we can't. It's like, I want to go and listen to this movie, but the date that I brought is going to fucking talk the whole time. Okay. So just apply that to what makes sense to you. But that is what I feel the most when I tune into this is that it's like someone in your immediate environment is messing shit up and it's shit you want to enjoy, or it's like you have your best song, your favorite song in the whole world, and your husband or wife walks in and turns it off and you're like, you asshole. But it's like, it's just what happens when you have people in your environment. Sometimes they do things that interrupt something that would have been really enjoyable, or like they're picking the movie this week and it's a war movie and you hate war movies or whatever it is. So those are some of the like more playful examples, but because Venus rules your fifth house of pleasure and she's going direct and she rules pleasure, it's like we have something related to our enjoyment in our local environment. Maybe you got tickets to something that just came into town. It can be something just every day like that where you're spending money on something that is enjoyable and it's fun. And you're like going to a concert. And maybe, Saturn isn't messing it up. Maybe Saturn is just that it's like a bunch of old people like this and you're going to it. Or maybe it's like, gothic, Venus, Saturn can literally be gothic things. So you might like if you are a Capricorn, I swear you have to comment this if this happens. But you might be like at a convention and everyone's dressed in all black or something, or like something else might happen where there's like a dark aesthetic going on. And you're like, yep, that's the dark aesthetic. But in general, in life, Venus also rules your 10th house of career. So this could just be a time where either career is heavy and serious and you have a lot to do and you're busy. That it could just be that. But it could also be that there's things you need to step up to. You're learning how to speak in the meetings at work or do something else related to communication and you're learning how to do it or you're training on something. Saturn can have you like just focusing on building skills, making sacrifices now, things that tie up your time in the moment. That can also be what it is, right? Your time being tied up at work, like in meetings or in other things that are maybe slow, not moving very fast. That can also be it. But you might also feel like you're trying to achieve a goal professionally and that, it's with Venus going direct, we have a little more forward momentum, but it's not quite all the way there yet, right? We're still heading up the mountain. We're not at the top. We might feel like we've made some progress or an energy shift around the 25th of April and then again on the 15th of May. And also, we might see on around the 15th, when Venus sextiles Uranus, we might see a sudden idea or some kind of change that requires immediate attention to our career and our professional life as well. But overall, Venus in the third still, maybe there's something lovely in your environment that you're enjoying. And maybe around the 15th, there is a sudden desire to spontaneously go do something, get out and go do something fun. Venus does rule pleasure, and she is still direct, even though Saturn's there. But it might blend the topic of something you enjoy with something you're committed to. That could also be a thing happening for Capricorns. Okay, so let me know if that resonated. I always love hearing from you guys. And we're going to go on to Aquariuses. For Aquarius, we have Venus direct in the second house of money. So this could be positive for finances. It could be that you are enjoying something you just bought, like you buy yourself I don't know, like anything you could possibly enjoy, especially things you would enjoy at home. Like you didn't have Netflix, now you got it, and now you're just watching the Netflix, or something else where it's like you're spending your money on something that is maybe art, beauty, music, movies, things you see on screens, things that are entertaining, and you're just enjoying it. It could just be that, Aquarius. But what else could be going on here? Well, Venus rules your ninth house. So if you felt heavy about the topic of God and you felt like maybe some Aquariuses are like, am I on the right path? And you're questioning it and you're considering changing your spiritual path. Not necessarily your career path, but like the spiritual path you're setting out to. Like, is this the right path? Maybe you're hitting some challenge where you thought it was going to be one way and it's just more of an obstacle. It doesn't mean you should stop, but there could be an obstacle spiritually right now. Or we could say with your quest in life, with what's meaningful, that you don't know how to overcome. And it might have to do with finances. Hold on, I need some water. So yeah, it might have to do with finances, and it might not. But it might also have to do with sacrifice too. It's like, okay, I want to be a Reiki master, but do I want to spend the money on the training or, something else like that, where it's like you're considering your long-term spiritual path that may or may not relate to professional stuff. And then what else? Venus also rules your fourth house of home and your own emotional foundation. So you might just be feeling stressed about something and just have a lot to deal with right now. And if that's the case, Aquarius, it's like you might just find solutions or feel like you've reached a certain amount of progress on solving whatever problem this is around the 25th. I think that Venus ruling the fourth house is like, it can just be like dealing with things that stress you out, dealing with things you're afraid of, dealing with financial fears, looking at somewhere you maybe overspent money or something. Hold on, let me think. Yeah, really seeing your own financial like patterns. Maybe some Aquariuses are really doing some work on their money mindset right now. And it's like, okay, we got to fix this, but maybe we don't know what the solution is right now. And then also the fourth house side of it being that Venus is your emotional foundation. But when it's with Saturn, you can just be looking at or dealing with serious things. You can be looking at or dealing with, especially if you had times in your childhood where like your parents weren't there for you. You might actually be seeing this on a deeper level right now of how that affects you today and how your psychological makeup has been influenced by those kind of things. It's not necessarily a bad thing to do sometimes. If that's the case, it feels like Aquarius is, again, the 25th is the date where we might see an energy shift here. And then the more current one is like an idea or some potential solution or an awareness of what you want to change might be happening around the 15th or so. of like, okay, I don't like this. I want to change it. I don't like the way that I feel when I get a bill and I get all stressed out. I want to change that or something else like that. There might be something going on like that. Or you might be making a change in your house and just like putting art on the wall or something. It could just be that too. So let me think about what else here for Aquarius. Yeah, going back to that ninth house, planet in the second, sometimes your spiritual path is going to affect your money. So if you are an Aquarius who's trying to make money off of spiritual work, this might be a time where you're really looking at what business model you would need and how you would do it. That could be a thing. And yeah, I mean, that's really what I feel here. Uh, I feel like some Aquariuses might just be considering like cutting back a little bit financially or making a plan to how to save. You know, that could also be what you're doing here. And then it's like by the 25th, you figured it out or something. Yeah, there could also be commitments being made here, agreements being made related to finances. Like maybe you're splitting a plane ticket with someone or something. Maybe your friend from another country is coming to visit and they're going to stay with you or something, you know, something like that could be happening. Maybe you're making some money off of teaching and you're trying to figure out how to make that work. Any of those things. Let me know, Aquarius, if you relate to any of that. We're going to move on now to our last but not least sign of Pisces. All right, so let me go to Pisces. All right, Venus direct in your sign, Pisces. We've had Saturn here since March, really bringing a heightened level of discipline and sacrifice. And Venus is here really kind of bringing that up, but in the nicest possible way. You know, Venus is going to bring that up in the most kindest, loveliest way there is to be brought up. Now, Venus in the first can just be you trying to be more beautiful, you trying to make yourself look a certain way, you feeling your most beautiful. But with Saturn here, it's almost like you putting on tons and tons of makeup to look good, or you like for figuring out the structure of your aesthetic. Like, okay, I'm going to wear this pant and this shirt and like the structure of the body, you know, and like how the like applying the 2/3 rule to your outfits or styling or something. It could be weight loss, but probably not that much just because of the probably not that much. What else could Venus be here? A new perfume, um, a new friend, a new thing you enjoy. Venus in the first could be you feel like being nicer to people. You just feel a little bit more ease with being yourself. Maybe you want to bring a Venus quality to your personality. Maybe you want to be more charming and magnetic. Maybe you want to have a more soothing voice. Maybe you're using your voice more. Venus rules the vocal cords. Maybe you're singing in a really low tone. Maybe you're chanting. Um, Lots of things like that. But let's look at what Venus rules for you. We have the third house and we have the eighth house. So for the third house, that's going to be your immediate environment, your roommates, your friends, the people you see in your neighborhood. And that being in the first house is like the people that are in your close environment who you're seeing a lot from day to day, whether it's at work or the gas station you go to or whatever, those people might actually be bringing more positivity to your life. But it could go the other way where there's like passive aggressive shit. Why do I say that? Because Venus is really nice and lovely, but also, Venus and Pisces can be avoidant. And I don't mean you, because Venus isn't you. Venus is these people, and it's coming into Saturn. So this could be people in your environment being passive aggressive, or they're just like really nicely insulting you. You know what I mean? How people will do that. They'll just ask you a question like, they'll ask you like, "Have you ever thought about losing weight?" And you're like, "Go fuck yourself." But you can't say that because they're being so nice and you're like at work or something. That kind of thing could be happening where you have to deal with challenging personal dynamics. But honestly, it doesn't even feel like that as much for Pisces. It actually feels more like if we're talking about maybe you could have the potential to meet someone in your environment who helps you solve a problem. And this could be a problem you've had for a couple years or a problem you're trying to solve, you're working on solving. Maybe you're getting more solutions. That could be it. Maybe you're having more conversations about Saturn and the first things, like what you're going to do when you die and retirement and like serious shit. Maybe you're talking about serious shit. Maybe you're talking about a plan. Maybe you're talking about sacrifice. And maybe it's a lovely conversation, or maybe it's like, just nice, or maybe people are complimenting you for how hardworking you are or something. What else? Okay, Venus ruling the 8th. Again, so this is like intimacy affecting intimate relationships, affecting your self image. Okay. So the people who you're the closest to could be bringing an ear to your problems. They could be helping you just see your problems in a more positive light and see yourself as more responsible, and just like highlighting the responsible parts of your life, or they might ease your burdens. I like that for Pisces. Intimate relationships, people you're close to, okay? It doesn't have to be sex, can be, but doesn't have to be. They're easing your burdens somehow. And that might just be through helping you just have a little more laughs, or something like that. What else do I see here? Some of you could find that something about your financial situation is in on your mind, especially with 8th house. This is either going to be money that you get directly from other people, like if you're self-employed and you sell to clients, this is your client's money. You may find that you are trying to solve some kind of problem related to that. Maybe some Pisces out there are like, my market doesn't want this. How do I adjust my business structure to align with the willingness to pay that my market has? Or do I change the market to find more willingness to pay? Da, 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 da. So maybe there's some exploration of, just trying to make those kind of problems easier. Maybe you have a client actually buy a really big package and their money helps ease your problems and helps your life become less burdened. That could be a thing. Nico, I just saw your comment. Thank you. And yeah, so that can be a positive thing. I wouldn't, if I'm a Pisces here, I wouldn't count on that to like or whatever. But it just feels like there's potential help. Venus might help with whatever your Saturn problem is, whatever you've been trying to accomplish for a couple years, whatever you've been feeling like you've sacrificed, whatever you've been feeling like isn't quite. It's heavy. There's gonna be, whenever Saturn's in your first house, this is a time in life where you're just working harder. You're doing more stuff you don't want to do, that you just have to do because life. And Venus is gonna be like, okay, you have to do all the shit you don't want to do, but I'm gonna be your buddy. You know what I mean? Or like, I'm gonna be your significant other who's like rooting you on and reminding you what's good about you and reminding you that you can do it. Or I'm going to be some friend who's like, hey, you're really needed though. Even though your job sucks, we need you and you're doing awesome and we couldn't do it without you. Or something else like that, where there's some little glimmer of hope in the little bit of sacrifice, and maybe the big bit of sacrifice. Why? Because Saturn's now with the North Node going, we got to sacrifice hard. We got to sacrifice all the way. We got to go all in on this, sacrifice right now. And it's in the house of you. So it's like, that's you wanting to do the most ultimate diet. And Venus making it easier because it's like, oh, here's some coconut flour recipes, right? Or something else like that, where let's enjoy the sacrifice. let's enjoy the sacrifice as much as we can. And that might not be a physical thing. It might be the mindset shift of like, hey, we're never going to pass this way again. We're never going to be this hungry again. We're never going to be this, giving up so many things again. So let's just enjoy this season of life. That could be what's going on for Pisces. So let me know if that resonates. Let me know if it makes sense and it applies to your life. I always love hearing from you guys. Okay, I'm going to check on the chat now and see if there are any other comments. Yeah, okay. So I just saw that one, Nico, about the Capricorn interpretation. Romy, hello. How are you? How is everybody doing? I just did all the signs. If you're jumping on now, you can always go back and watch for your sun, moon, and rising. And I'm going to show you guys actually what else you can watch on the channel because there's a bunch of stuff to watch. So let's go there and check it out. Okay, so here, nope, we need it like this. Yeah, okay, so here's this. I'm going to go find the channel really quick and I'm going to show you guys. Oh, that's not going to be it. Hold on. I'm on my other YouTube video. I have a channel that I just use to upload client videos so I don't mix it up. Okay, so here we are on the channel, and you can go down to most recent videos, and you're going to see this one right now. This one's coming up, and then we have Mercury just went direct. The solar eclipse was in Aries. Neptune is in Aries, and the lunar eclipse in Virgo. Those are all videos you can watch right now, and they'll be relevant. And then we're going to do Mars Pluto soon. Mars opposite Pluto will happen on the 18th. And we're going to talk about that. This is so nice, Romy. This is so nice. It's been a while. Hasn't it been a while? Gosh, I just remember you like knowing all the things, like knowing that Pisces is feet and just how fun that was. Okay, yes. So that's another thing I'll just tell you guys before I go is that I do private readings. So you can always book a reading with me using the link in the description. And that's something that, it takes you deeper than you can go yourself. And I know sometimes people will be reading their own charts and they'll be like, okay, I know my moon is in Pisces and I know it's in the 6th house. And the moon in Pisces means this, but the 6th house means this. And then they kind of get stuck after that because they're like, but how do I match those when they're opposite? Or, what do I do when it's aspecting something, right? And so you can literally spend like 10 years trying to figure it out yourself, or you can just book a reading and know what it means. And I think that the thing about astrology that you need to do if you're going to book a reading is you need to kind of let it wash over you in the order that it does. Because sometimes the insight that you get isn't like if you have a specific thing that you're like, I need to know about my money right now. To me, I can't really, like, I can only help you so much. But when you're like, I just want to know about my soul and its journey and my patterns, that mindset of like letting it be okay of whatever comes through is going to just, in my readings, it makes a huge difference because sometimes you have a thing going on over here, but the insight you get over here that you weren't thinking about the problem is like a million times better sometimes than the stuff that you were like trying to figure out. At least that's my experience. Feel free to let me know if that's true for you. Yeah, yeah. Pisces, midheaven, and foot modeling. See? Yep, exactly. Okay, guys, have a beautiful weekend. Like I said, I put the captions on these, so because I'm not doing timestamps, so you can go back and find them based on the caption for your sun, moon, and rising. And I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I'm going to come back tomorrow for live readings. I'm not sure exactly what time, but sometime tomorrow I will be on for live readings. So if you want a live reading with me and you haven't gotten a chance to get one recently, tomorrow is a great day to get one because I'll be here doing them. So, and then we'll do the Pluto opposite Mars. We'll do that soon too, because that happened quite a while ago. And I just think people are going to get a lot out of that. I don't always do the oppositions, but I usually like to do Pluto Mars aspects because I'm a Pluto Mars woman, and that's why. That's really why I can read the planets that are strongest in my chart the best, and that's just facts, you guys. You guys want Venus? I'm like, okay, but I don't have a strong Venus over here, so I'll just do the best I can with these Venus things. Anyway, I'm rambling, so I'm gonna go. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. I will see you all beautiful souls in the next video. Bye, guys.